This week on the Business of Tech, we've got Microsoft and Google going after each other, multiple ideas for market disruption in the MSP space. We've got data on how tech workers are doing, and more insights. Hit that like and subscribe button. Let's dive right in. So, are we not seeing the value of some cloud investments? Per McKinsey, nearly 2/3 of industrial companies use cloud computing. 74% fail to yield expected savings or business value. Half found it more costly than they anticipated, and 40% exceeded their cloud budgets. And remember, companies waste about 35% of their cloud budget per a number of surveys. From the CIO Dive piece, quote, "Our research indicates that the cloud's value in IT amounts to only about 5% of the cloud's potential value," McKinsey said, adding, "Around 95% of the cloud's $600 billion value potential lies in business-related functions, such as manufacturing, procurement, and supply chain." Meanwhile, Bessemer Venture has their State of the Cloud 2021 data to compare against. Some highlights. Infrastructure as a service growth for Microsoft to over 20% of market share, plus a huge rise in public cloud valuation. Here's your big predictions. 80% of sales interaction will happen through digital channels by 2025. And the VC is also big on the SMB with SaaS. Now, why do we care? Let's assemble the story. Companies are investing in cloud computing, wasting some of the spending, and not getting enough value out of it. Sounds about right. But the answer won't be to not do cloud. It will be about getting it right. Because there's so much potential to unlock, that 95% of the value. Because the trend is clear. 80% of sales interactions through digital channels? That sounds about right to me, and what my instincts were saying when I presented e-commerce. Infrastructure is the other big discussion area. With the American Rescue Plan signed into law, it includes $7 billion for schools to use to connect students who lack internet access at home. That's designed to help connect some of the roughly 12 million students who lack connectivity for distance learning. Next up is the Accessible Affordable Internet for All Act. That bill includes $94 billion in broadband spending. $80 billion is for deploying broadband nationwide and prioritizes rural, suburban, and urban areas. Quoting Engadget, "Providers whose networks were built from that money will then be required to offer affordable plans to consumers. The bill will also authorize the spending of $5 billion over 5 years on a new program that would provide low-interest financing for broadband infrastructure build-out projects, the Emergency Broadband Benefit, which provides a $50 monthly discount on internet plans for low-income Americans and $75 for customers on tribal lands, will get an additional $6 billion in funding. $2 billion will go to the Emergency Connectivity Fund for students that need internet connection, and a portion of the money will also go towards funding for Wi-Fi on school buses. I also wanted to highlight a comment from Jonathan Weiner, the CEO of Sidewalk Infrastructure Partners in Protocol. This was in reference to that new legislature being worked on. Quoting Protocol, he said the most important step is literally connecting the people. Quote, like, hey, this is an EV charging network that's working really well. This is a broadband network that's working really well. Mayor X, you should be talking to Mayor Y, because Mayor Y just went through this. I know this might sound a bit simplistic, but it doesn't happen currently, he said. Chattanooga, Tennessee is a good example. It turned community Wi-Fi into a municipal utility, which gave it new tools for regulation and funding. Other cities are currently trying all manners of other solutions, and they don't even know what Chattanooga has already figured out. Echoing statements made here before, Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the web, wrote in a blog post late last week that governments must work to ensure global broadband access by 2030. Why? To bridge the digital divide. Now, why do we care? That funding to link students without internet at home? It's not got to be just wiring. I'd assume there's services work in there as the local level. But what interests me more is the discussion about local utilities and information sharing. I hate the cliche, but it's true. There's tons of opportunity here. On the passive side, if broadband is a local utility, this just opens up markets. Think electricity or water or roads. You can get to those customers now. More actively, there's work to be done with local governments, which by definition includes services. It also needs the local technology expertise. Finally, there's the idea sharing angle to include. We want to foster exactly that information sharing to find success and replicate it. I included Berners-Lee to highlight the cultural shift. This idea of broadband as a utility is moving. With all the buzz about tech and its power, how does the industry itself feel? Well, Protocol asked. 78% of employees said the tech industry is too powerful. And when they asked only about Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Alphabet, the number was practically identical. 56% said that U.S. restrictions on Chinese tech companies have gone too far, and 58% say they worry about the repercussions of a Cold War with China. Far more people think tech should avoid working with law enforcement than think it should avoid working with China. Regulation is a popular idea. 73% of employees said they wanted regulation for AI, and more than 71% of those familiar with Section 230 said it needed to be reformed. 45% of respondents said tech does more good than harm, for instance, while 40% said the opposite. Just over 40% think the big four companies should be broken up, but more than 68% hope they partner with or get acquired by one of those same four. Now, why do we care? Protocol highlighted that execs may think the walkout and complaints about government projects are a loud minority, and they're wrong. I care because if this is how employees of the firms themselves feel, think about the customer base. It doesn't seem so great. This will impact anyone delivering technology because of the perception. Note, this is all the tech industry, and IT services are pulled into that. I recently saw an IT pundit make a case for never appealing to any social cause in one's marketing. That pundit clearly isn't actually paying attention to demographic data, which shows clearly younger buyers and younger workers absolutely want to know a company's stance on social issues. I wouldn't be so dismissive of the value of how you're perceived in society. While we're talking some of the big tech companies, here's a couple of items. Microsoft and Google are trading barbs in the media in multiple channels. Microsoft slammed Google in House testimony, citing Google 75 times in the written statement. Google fired back, including claiming this was all to distract from the SolarWinds attacks. In another avenue, Google slammed Microsoft for their moves in Australia after Microsoft very publicly supported the new law around publishers and is calling for similar regulation in Europe. Google calls it breaking the way the open web works. On the security front, Microsoft is now warning about a new family of ransomware, which builds upon the Exchange server attack. As of last week, there were 14,000 companies still unpatched. And speaking of the Exchange attack, Microsoft is investigating if those hackers got information from private disclosures with security partners, meaning it could be an inside job, either inadvertently or on purpose, and from a Microsoft partner. Now, why do we care? Everyone all gets along when things are going well. The claws come out when the competition heats up. As we noted in the earlier story, the techlash is real, and so the arguments get much more heated. We care because it isn't helping. If getting all very, very messy, and technology services companies had better be watching their own image. Sure, it might seem distant, but your local ties to the community are going to matter now. Be forewarned, this is going to get worse before it gets better. I don't usually like product launches as stories, unless it may be a trend. Salesforce and Tanium launched IT Service Center, which is a combination IT service management, remote monitoring and management, and cybersecurity platform. So why do we care? Salesforce offers a platform to do all the stuff an MSP offers. Yeah, that's why we care. It's unclear the positioning. Is this all levels, mid-market, or SMB, or everything? Salesforce has a channel for sure and a strong ecosystem play to bring those who support Salesforce into their fold. They also do a really nice job of billing direct, too. But there's real money to be made in the Salesforce ecosystem. And don't tell me they don't play in the SMB. They do. I predicted this year would be the year of disruption to the major MSP tools. It's far too early to declare victory on that prediction, but this is a contender for who might do it. So here's an interesting one from Politico. Lawmakers are asking some questions about Microsoft's approach to logging in the wake of the SolarWinds breaches. As hackers moved into Microsoft's cloud by impersonating users, they bypassed defenses. And the way to find that is examining logs of user behavior. This is a feature that Microsoft charges additional for. Here are some quotes. It's kind of like buying a car and hearing, "Oh, you want airbags with that and brakes? Well, that's going to be an upcharge," said Representative Jim Langevin, Democrat of Rhode Island. House Homeland Security Chair Benny Thompson, Democrat, Mississippi. As far as we know, Boeing doesn't charge extra for the black box. Representative Lucille Roybal Allard of California, who chairs the House Appropriations Homeland Security Subcommittee, raised the issue during a March 10th hearing with CISA leaders, saying it was concerning that CISA planned to spend a significant portion of the $650 million that it's getting from the COVID-19 relief bill on upgrading Microsoft licenses. Bloomberg picked up on the same issue with another quote. If the only solution to a major breach in which hackers exploited a design flaw long ignored by Microsoft is to give Microsoft more money, the government needs to reevaluate its dependence on Microsoft, said Oregon Senator Ron Wyden, a leading Democrat on the Intelligence Committee. Now, why do we care? What struck me about this was how this just sounds like speaking to customers as IT providers. I can hear the echoes of customer complaints in every statement. You mean I have to pay more for it to be secure? CRN has an interview with CrowdStrike's CEO who says there's a crisis of trust in the Microsoft customer base. I think he's wrong. I think it's a crisis of trust in technology. Let's think about the rush on selling cybersecurity. It's right there. We're all rushing to sell cybersecurity, meaning we implicitly saying we didn't deliver it before. So coming back and asking for more money to plug holes is implicitly dangerous. And in the SMB, the danger lives for the services provider, not for the software vendor. Think about your managed services bundles. Are you not including security in everything? If you have any options at all to opt out, you are absolutely opening yourself up to this line of reasoning. And vendors? Are you not aware of this perception? Microsoft is the easy target here, but I'm sure I could play the same with a lot of software vendors. If you're not including the items to keep a customer secure, you're opening yourself up to this line of questioning. And now the US government is asking the question, too. While I'm on the security beat today, Vice is highlighting how easy it is to hijack SMS messages. Using a service by company Sakari, which sells SMS marketing and mass messaging, hackers reroute text without a SIM swap, all without the victim even noticing. From there, you can easily move on to hijacking accounts just by asking. Most companies are not verifying the letters of authorization that sets this attack up. Now, why do we care? Any security guru will tell you 2FA is better when it's physical key or using an authenticator over an SMS. That SMS is this insecure is frightening. I'll ask about a hole in the market. Is there a way to check automatically for customers that this is set up right? As I look at the cloud management space and the idea of scanning for configuration changes, can you scan for this? Can you stay vigilant across accounts to ensure it's all set up right? Somebody let me know. A bit more Gartner insight today. Their new top 10 trends in data and analytics 2021 report is out. Data and analytics will morph into a core business function this year. The analyst views it as a shared business asset connected to business results and will break down those data silos. Now, why do we care? This kind of report can make me smile. Let's rephrase it. This technology will actually become part of the business rather than something off to the side. we should be a little self-aware sometimes, myself included, about speaking in babble. This should be viewed as a success. If a technology is just a business function, it's mainstream. We've been at this discussion long enough around data and analytics. Now customers expect it. That's good, and a higher bar for some. Want to ask, why do we care? T-shirts, stickers, water bottles, and even aprons. Pick up some of our great stuff at the link in the description below and support the show directly. Amazon is coming for healthcare. The company announced that their Amazon Care health program will be available to other companies, as well as their employees outside of Washington state. The platform includes virtual meetings with doctors through the app and in-person care at home. It can dispatch nurses, too, for in-home blood draws or vaccine administration. The company has its own online pharmacy already as well. So why do we care? Healthcare is ripe for disruption, which is intensely obvious, and me not taking any risks at all. Big speculation here. How much more services can Amazon consume for small and mid-sized businesses with this? As a small business owner myself, I feel the pain of dealing with health insurance in the United States. That's one piece. But stretching beyond, why just healthcare? How many more services can Amazon deliver? Or are they already doing that with some of their marketplace moves? That's my why today. Remember the teenager who took over Twitter with a Bitcoin scam attack last summer? He pleaded guilty in a court in Florida on Tuesday. Charged as a youthful offender, he's already been credited with over 200 days of time served. While we're hitting security, Checkpoint Research has new data on the Exchange server hack. The number of attempted attacks increased tenfold from 700 on March 11th to more than 7,200 on March 15th. The attackers have targeted the United States the most, 17%. They've also targeted Germany, 6%, the UK, 5%, the Netherlands, 5%, and Russia, 4%. The most targeted industry sector has been government and military, at 23% of all exploit attempts. Then comes manufacturing, 15%, banking and financial services, 14%, software vendors, 7%, and healthcare, 6%. The White House's task force on the issue had its first meeting on Monday. So why do we care? That Exchange breach is a huge deal and is at the beginning of the investigation stage. The Twitter scam, however, is at the tail end. A year later, there are consequences to its actions. Today, the reason we care is the time discrepancy. The attacks and initial incident response move very quickly. The legal cleanup moves much, much slower. So does the long-term technical cleanup. These incidents have two timescales, and that's important to internalize. In tech, we're often pretty bad at time estimates. We think change comes a lot faster than it often does. In the case of enforcement and consequences, our fast instincts are all wrong. Turning attention to a channel story. Facebook is reworking its Workplace One Partner program. Quoting Computer Weekly, Facebook is reaching out to channel firms that want to resell or build services on Workplace, offering resources and information and signaling that the expanding market means there are growth opportunities for those that get involved. The platform is used by about 5 million customers for online collaboration and communications tools. Now, why do we care? Did you know Facebook had a partner program or a business platform? The only reason I care is because of the business layer discussion. I've talked about Salesforce or Zoom or Microsoft as the business layer to do consulting on. I would be remiss if I didn't point out Facebook wants a piece of this. Would I build a business on Facebook? Nope. I have just too many concerns about the way their algorithms work. That said, 5 million customers is no small number. It's an option, even if it's one I wouldn't use. With my thinking on e-commerce, a heavy conversation lately in IT services, let's pick up a story I missed. MSP tools provider Datto has launched Datto Commerce, which, quoting Channel EDE, is, quote, cloud-based sales platform for MSPs that supports sales quoting, procurement, and e-commerce capabilities, and connects to third-party distributors such as Ingram Micro and Synex, end quote. The product includes e-commerce capabilities to let end customers purchase pre-approved products from MSP websites. Now, why do we care? Joe Patteri at Channel EDE has a follow-up piece where he outlines this bet for Datto on being a Shopify-style platform for managed service providers. He's not wrong, but I think this is a little too late. Providers need to be in flight now, rather than waiting on this to be a significant thing, and more importantly, the tools to do so are well established, including things like Shopify as outlined. If the key value of a provider is their ability to simplify down to a solution for a customer, then less is more when it comes to providers providing an online shop, a highly focused, highly curated collection of products and services will be why you purchase from a specialty retailer like a service provider. It's not about having all the products from Ingram or Synex, it's about the curation. Far too many of these tools focus on the back end rather than delivering a good end customer experience. You can see it in the features list, an emphasis on quoting, feeds, procurement, and integrations rather than leading with e-commerce. There's real potential here for sure. I fear for the overemphasis on the back end rather than the focus on the end customer. Those providers who want to be in the lead here shouldn't be waiting for a product bet to pay off when the tools to be delivering e-commerce now are available and mature. If vendors want to capitalize on that, they'd better be moving more aggressively than small bets. Going into the weekend with a bit of a roundup. I've had this collection of stories on my desk that tell a larger story all week, and I wanted to share them. It's all about the people side of being remote. The Washington Post had perspective from a professor who struggled to teach online and determined what he needed from visual feedback and the culture he built in his online classroom to help get it while also respecting privacy. Two stories, one from the Post and one from GeekWire, about online learning specifically. The Post goes into a lot of detail over how kids learn, but a key takeaway was, quote, what appears to matter most is the support systems that children and their parents have available to them, end quote. GeekWire's version, that shifting in a matter of weeks from in-person instruction that has been honed over decades to entirely online education, with little to no training and using technology that wasn't built for the job, was destined to go badly. Newstack digs in on burnout in tech, an 8% rise in emails outside of business hours, 13% more meetings, 68% of tech workers feel more burned out. While only up 7% from February 2020, it's still up. Now, why do we care? There's a theme we care about here. It's all about the people, not the technology. You can see it in each story. The people using the technology, or the lack of training, or the process, or the investment in culture. Any one of these pieces would tell this story. When you see them together, it's striking. The opportunity here is to be the organization that goes beyond the technology into actually solving this. Are you selling or delivering training, and are doing so ongoing? Are you working with customers to make sure the technology is integrated into the way they do business? Are you measuring the effectiveness and iterating over time? Those business skills are going to be what make standout organizations. Thanks for tuning in to This Week in the Business of Tech. Shows come out each week, pulling together the daily podcast. If you like this show, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The content here is possible because of supporters like you. If you want access to shows early, answers to your questions, and private interactions, join our Patreon. It's pay what you want. You decide what the content is worth. Join at patreon.com/MSPradio. Patreons also get access to the written versions of every story as they come out. If you want the stories right away, you can get them on the daily podcast. Find The Business of Tech on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your shows. Subscribe links at businessof.tech and I'll talk to you again next week.